Hi, this is Kaushik Ranchod here, and today what I'm going to talk about is the marriage-based interview, 7 mistakes to avoid when you go to the interview, because it's really important to be prepared, to know what to expect, because the uncertainty of having an officer asking you questions that you may not be prepared for. So you'll want to stay tuned to watch this video to learn about 7 common mistakes that you'll want to be prepared for and to avoid. I'm going to talk about how you can do that in this video. All right, so mistake number 1 is not being prepared for your interview. So you're going to get an interview notice, and on there it's going to have a list of documents that you need to take to the interview. So make sure you bring those documents, as well as a copy of your application that you submitted. And you might think, well, I already submitted the application. Well, a lot of times, sometimes they don't have all the documents that are in there, and you want to be prepared to have that so you can give it to them in the event that they can't find a document. Now, what are some of the documents that you want to bring? Marriage certificate, certified divorce decrees, birth certificate of children, certified criminal documents if you have a criminal issue. Those are some documents, of course, your passport as well, and joint documents demonstrating that you have a real relationship are really important, because just being married is not enough. You have to demonstrate that you actually have a real relationship. And one way that that is done is by for them to evaluate your documents. So what are some of those joint documents? Joint bank account statements, joint leases are an example of that. Joint utilities bills or utility bills, those are some examples of joint documents, because generally when people are married, they have things commingled and they have joint documents. So that's one way for them to evaluate that. You want to make sure you are prepared. Okay, mistake number 2 that I see is people providing unnecessary information in their interview, just going on and on and on and on and blabbing. And you want to just stick to the point and not go on to a huge tangent, because a lot of times that can be unnecessary information. And then the officer might start asking you questions about that tangent. And if your memory doesn't serve you correctly, you might not answer that follow-up question correctly, or you may contradict yourself because you're nervous. So stick to the point and just answer the questions that they're asking. And that's same with the documentation. Provide only the relevant documentation that they're asking for. On to point number 3. Don't lie to an immigration officer. And the reason you don't want to lie to an immigration officer should be obvious to you. You are under oath when you are at the interview. And so by lying, you could be found with fraud or misrepresentation, which could lead to a denial, which could lead to removal. So you'd think this is obvious, but people think that they need to lie when they should not be lying. First of all, of course you don't want to lie. And second of all, it's not going to even help your case. What I see some people do is they get really nervous and they think they need to provide a date or a specific time that something happened. And if you just don't remember, that's okay. If you don't remember every single date or specific time that something happened, just explain to the officer that you don't remember, but you absolutely do not want to lie. Mistake number 4, being combative. You don't want to be combative at your interview. Now, many officers are professional and you have many that are not. So regardless, you want to remain and be composed. Talk to the officer respectfully, address them as an officer. Also dress like you would go to an interview, because you want to be respectful to the immigration officer, and because they're the one who's deciding your case. They're the jury in your case. They're going to make the ultimate decision. So you want them to be on your side. Now, ultimately, if you have an officer who's asking you inappropriate questions, who has gone and crossed the line, then you can ask for the interview to be stopped or ask to speak to a supervisor as a last resort. But you don't want to be combative with the officer and argue back and forth with the officer, because that is not going to help your case. Mistake number 5, arriving late. Now this is obvious, but it's also a mistake that I see people make. They take this too casually. This is your chance, and if you miss an interview, it could lead to a denial, so you want to make sure you are on time. Allow for accidents, allow for traffic. Now with COVID, you got to show up only 15 minutes before because of social distancing and all of that. After COVID is over with, you can have, I would recommend, and this is what was happening pre-COVID, is that I would advise my clients to be there at least 30 minutes, even an hour beforehand, because the lines could be so long. So it's gonna depend upon what's happening during that time. Right now, it's 15 minutes. They are handling this whole COVID situation well. They are spacing out the interviews very well, so 15 minutes beforehand is good, but I would allow for any kind of mishaps that could happen on your way to the interview, and you can always wait in your car, even though they only want you 15 minutes there ahead of time. So keep that in mind. You want to make sure you are there on time. I think it was Woody Allen who said 90% of life is showing up, and that's so true for this interview. Mistake number 6. Worrying too much. Now, this interview, of course, is extremely important, so you're naturally going to be worried. You're naturally going to have some anxiety. However, I want you to, the day before, just relax, order dinner out if you can with your spouse, and just enjoy the evening and get plenty of rest, because when you're tired, you can't remember things. And they're gonna ask you questions that you should know, like, when did you meet? What was the date of your marriage? And they're gonna ask you some questions that you may not know, and that's okay. You don't have to know every single question. So if you are not able to answer a question, that's okay. Not answering one question correctly is not gonna mess up your whole case. So you should make sure that you are prepared for the interview, and if you're prepared, then there's nothing to worry about. But you do need to make sure that you are prepared, because some people take it too lightly, too casually, and think, oh, just because I'm married, I'm gonna have no issues. So be prepared and you'll be fine. And mistake number 7, failure to bring an attorney. Now, this is an issue, especially if you have complications, especially with this administration, where I see inappropriate questions being asked, because the attorney can intervene in that kind of situation. If you have criminal issues, those can be complicated. Sometimes some issues need to be explained. So having an attorney in these situations will help make the interview go much smoother, and you're probably going to be stressed, so just having an attorney there will make you feel less stressed as well. Also, if your case is denied for any reason, it's just good to have an attorney there as a witness, because the attorney will be able to refute anything that may be alleged incorrectly on the denial. So having an attorney there just for that reason is also smart as well. So I hope that this helped you, because I want you to do well at your interview. You've come so far, and if you're at the interview process stage, you are on the last step. So I wish you all the best of luck. Comment below if this was helpful, or if you went to your interview, let me know what happened. And I want to just thank you for watching. Smash that like button and subscribe, and have an amazing day, because you are amazing. Bye.